What's going on, everybody? So I'd imagine if you clicked on this video, you're a part of the motorcycle world, and I've been getting a lot of comments recently asking me to address what's going on with YouTube. So as I'm sure you know, a lot of your favorite motovloggers out there have been complaining about issues that they've been having with YouTube. Now I've been experiencing these issues as well, but I usually just tend not to focus on the negative stuff. Before I get too deep into this is all my opinion. Think what you want, but I'm just giving you my thoughts that are in my brain. So over the past few years, I would say really big in the last year, I'm sure you've heard of the phrase bike life. Bike life?
Bikes up, guns down.
Now what is bike life? What does that mean? Where do I think that word came from? It came from the hood, the inner cities. It's a collective group of people that all share one thing in common: riding bikes and doing wheelies. And it just so happens to be something that I really enjoy to do as well. I mean, there's just something about it. If you've never felt that feeling, you won't understand. But there's just such an awesome feeling, that adrenaline rush. Just the skill involved. It's a sport for that matter. Before you argue with that, what's the definition of sport?
An activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment.
Anybody who wheelies knows that it's exerting. If you've ever heard of arm pump, it's a workout. And just like it said, it's more of an individual sport at that, and you're competing with others. You're trying to be the best. And that's not everybody. Some people stay in their own lane, do their own thing, like me, myself. I'm just out to have a good time and ride with my friends. So the wheelie. The wheelie has been around ever since we had something that we could ride. People were trying to wheelie them. When I was growing up, I loved to try to wheelie. I never mastered it. It was never like a big thing. It was just something fun that we tried to do. There was no brake control, scraping, any of that at the time. It was just you're riding out a wheelie, see how long you can ride it. And a lot of the times we just go right over the back, loop out, just because we didn't know any better. The wheelie today is not what I had when I was growing up riding. I was always on two-strokes too, so it was a lot harder to wheelie them and get them to balance point and ride them out. Back to the point. So in these inner cities, these kids were getting together and riding wheelies and seeing how long they could ride wheelies, just trying to show off everything that they could do that was different from somebody else while riding a wheelie. Now first off, at the purest form, I think that's a great thing. Kids getting passionate about something, staying out of trouble, and most of the time, it's a positive thing. Like I said, especially when it was starting out, they were just out there to have fun, master their craft, express themselves. It's an art form, and it was an avenue that they found that got them away from everything that was bad in life and gave them something positive to do and a sense of freedom that I'm sure they've never felt, because that's the type of feeling I get every time I hop on a bike. So I listed a lot of positives: giving these kids an outlet to express themselves, getting together with friends as a community to do something positive. And a lot of these inner cities, and everywhere for that matter, the kids are getting into drugs, playing with weapons, just bullying people. There's a lot of things that kids and young adults can stray to, but riding these bikes can get them away from that stuff, and they can spend their time doing something more positive. Now, like I said, in its purest form, a couple kids, group of friends going out riding wheelies isn't a big deal. A lot of the problem has to do with social media. Everybody out there these days is trying to make a name for themselves, constantly trying to rack up as many followers as they can, do the most craziest moves, stunts, just to grow their following and spread their name. So as this internet world grows, all these activities grow exponentially. The bike life scene blew up, spilled out of inner cities, and is now a globally known thing. So what's bad about that? The bad thing about that is the numbers. These groups host these rideouts that can range anywhere from a few hundred to thousands of people. And when these rideouts happen, they basically shut down entire cities,
wreaking havoc right in the middle of the rush hour commute.
And it is just chaos. If you've ever been to one, if you've ever seen one, it is madness. And that's when it exceeds its limit. There comes a time when this positive thing with good intentions becomes a not so positive thing, because we are talking about stuff that's blatantly illegal. The wheelie can kind of go either way with law enforcement. Some cops understand, some don't. Some see it as a terrorist threat. I mean, some people lose it when they see someone riding a wheelie. And a lot of people that actually know how to wheelie aren't a danger on the road. But wheelies are illegal, so when you get these groups of 100 to thousands of people wheeling down the street, shutting down these cities, it comes to a point where they're gonna have to stop it. The police force spends hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to stop these major rides, and they'll never stop it from happening completely, but they might be able to some way shut down these major rides in some way. Because I don't know, I've seen some crazy stuff that police do. They might resort to some crazy tactics, so be safe out there. And In a lot of these inner cities, these cops have dirt bikes now so they can maneuver easier, and they're really cracking down tenfold and all this stuff. So how do I feel about bike life as a scene? There's definitely positive aspects to it, but where my perspective kind of changes on that is when the mob mentality starts to come into play and you got thousands of people flying through these major cities. It's one thing to go out in these abandoned cities and out on country roads and out in the slums where they're not really bothering anybody. But when they're flying through these main cities like Miami, Atlanta, just all these places where there's a lot to go wrong and you're impeding on people's days, that's when it starts to become a problem. And that's when it becomes a problem for law enforcement. As long as we stay away from the busy areas and places where things can go wrong, they don't care. We've gotten away with some things that you wouldn't believe just from being respectful and just keeping those activities away from people, away from harm. And I'm sure that'll raise some controversy, but that's just how I feel about it. And when people get in groups like that, I mean, they're stealing stuff, etc. I'm not gonna get too much into that. You know what happens. Back to the main point of this video. Thank you if you've held on this long. That's what I believe is causing all this conflict with motorcyclists and YouTube. Now, I don't really like to label myself as a motovlogger. I like to do other things. I don't like to be boxed in, and there's a lot more that I'm into, so it really hasn't affected me like it's affected other people. But a lot of these motovlogging channels where people are documenting these rides and going out and doing wheelies, a lot of them are getting their videos demonetized. So what is demonetization? If you're into YouTube at all, I'm sure you've heard that term, but basically YouTube determines whether your video is monetizable or not, whether you can make money off of it. So if your video contains content which YouTube deems inappropriate or not suited for most advertisers, you can get that video demonetized. Now recently, it's been a fine line with YouTube what gets monetized and what doesn't, but I've been finding that a lot of this stuff pertaining to wheelies is getting demonetized, and that comes back to my main points earlier. I think a lot of that has to do with Bikelife and them just trying to shut down the promotion of these illegal activities. Do I think that's gonna help? Yes and no. I mean, when you're posting videos like that, you're influencing thousands of people, and a lot of the times you're motivating people to do the same things. That's why they call this being an influencer, and that really is why I believe they're doing this. They're just trying to encourage creators to promote more positive things, and like I said, I know there's positive aspects to it. Trust me, I love doing wheelies. I've never been on any of those crazy rides, but I've been on a lot smaller ones, and the feeling I get from even that, whew, that definitely is a bucket list thing for me, I'm not gonna lie. So do I think they're right for doing that? No, I don't. It might help on the small scale, but with the big picture, it's not gonna slow anything down, and it's a shame that we're the ones that have to suffer. Like I said, I'm not personally affected as much, but there's people out there with families they're trying to support. A big motovlogger, Jake the Garden Snake, just had a bike reveal video that he was struggling with getting demonetized. And what also happens when you get demonetized is your video doesn't get pushed the same way. So it's not gonna get promoted, you're not gonna see it as much. And if you go back and look through some of my previous videos, you'll see a video and think like, wow, why didn't that do better? There's your answer. But YouTube's just been super strict with things lately. And like I said, I'm not butthurt about that. With all of the masses of content out there, I think it can be a good thing for some and detrimental to others. But it just all depends on how you want to look at it and if you're willing to adapt and overcome. So to wrap this up, those are my thoughts on bike life. There's limits to everything in life. For all the riders out there, I just encourage you to be safe, be respectful to others. Just look at things from a different perspective other than your own. When people see this stuff outside of this world, they're like, whoa, like this is reckless. And it is, and it isn't in a way. Like I said, a lot of these people are in complete control of what they're doing. Of course you'll have outliers. At the end of the day, wheelies are illegal, so take it how you want and do what you want to do with it. So that's the YouTube story. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. Leave a like or dislike depending on how you feel on this video. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover. I think I summed it up pretty good, and I'm generally pretty open-minded about this stuff. But I want you guys to keep riding, keep having fun, be safe, be respectful. I hope to see you guys out there on the streets someday. Other than that, subscribe if you're not already. It's free, and I'll see you in the next video. Bike life!